Ugh, that is disconcerting.
We're recording. So everyone knows. Everyone be nice.
I can see it. I'm reading.
Yeah,
Oh, it's actually
it is recording.
Well, it'll do a summary for us too.
as we know, yeah.
The scary.
So we'll all have to
Scary
say our
part of
names
AI.
when we speak.
Yeah.
Okay, let's call our meeting to order. Welcome to the February 10th, 2026 meeting of the Foothills Community Advisory Committee. And if you're here in person and haven't picked up your name tag, please do. I think everyone has. Christina will make note of your attendance. And then she'll also notice if anyone's attending remotely by web-based video conferencing. I think we have a really interesting and interactive meeting tonight that Jason and Will have planned for us, along with Eric. Eric unfortunately cannot be with us tonight because he's ill, but he's at home recovering. And I'm pleased that Jessica Namanalou is with us, our Director of Community Development.
Our wonderful director.
Well, yes, who's about to celebrate 25 years with the city. So that's a big milestone. Yeah.
Better do something special, Joe.
No. Oh, they may, yeah,
Started when she was 15.
yes.
That's right, just a baby.
You may have heard or read that later this month, on February 26th, there's going to be a meeting for the public to introduce Foothills planning concepts to them, probably reviewing a lot of the things dealing with opportunities and constraints and values and guiding principles that we've been addressing. But that'll be here at the ACC at 6 o'clock on February 26th. If you can attend, I'm sure we would be glad to see you. And Jason, Will, and Jessica, do you have something you'd like to say of an introductory nature before we go to minutes?
I don't think so. I think we can go.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Well,
We're going to be talking a lot.
Christina has circulated the minutes of our January 13th meeting in advance. And we've all had an opportunity, I hope, to look at those draft minutes. Are there any changes to the draft minutes that anyone has noticed or would like to suggest?
She noticed one just duplication. I pointed out to Christina, she's already edited it on her end.
What was that?
It was just a line that was duplicated
Oh,
twice.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for
That's the
catching that.
change.
Any other suggested edits? If not, is there a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Lisa seconds. Very good. All in favor, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All opposed to adopting the minutes? No. If you're abstaining, would you raise your hand? No abstentions? Very good. So I will turn the meeting now over to Jessica, Will, and Jason to guide us into the substance. Thank you.
Yeah, let's start with some updates. Recent stakeholder engagements. Excuse my voice. I should work through that in a moment. We met with Friends of Tryon Creek, which was awesome. We met Jonathan and Betty, and we met in the primary structure in the park. Talked a lot about who they host at Tryon Creek, a bit of the history of how it got established and how that's evolved over time. And then we talked a bit about Foothills. We learned some interesting things about what it's like when you work at Tryon Creek at the park and where you go for lunch. And so Foothills, that seemed interesting, to maybe open doors to more opportunities for lunch and just maybe getting down to the park, thinking about new ways to access the Foothills in the future, that those folks there thought they might interact a lot more with Foothills and downtown once that thing is happening. So I thought that was really interesting. We talked about Foothills itself and what's going on in the park, and thinking about the Highway 43 culvert, and thinking about a trail extension along the Foothills waterfront and crossing over Tryon Creek, and maybe eventually that trail network extending from kind of the mouth of the Willamette and the Tryon up. And that really opened a lot of sort of thinking about extending programs that they do up the hill and bringing that down to where the Willamette and Tryon Creek come together. And so as we're thinking about the fish passage project, and that became like an interesting topic for all of us, something that we were all sort of excited to be able to talk about, and then be able to think about incorporating that part of the work that they do in terms of restoring salmon and lamprey eel, that would be a whole new added thing to extend to the programs they already do, which a lot of it is like understanding native plants and thinking about creek health. And those are just sort of the programs that happen there. Interactions with the Grand Ronde tribe, for instance, is pretty prominent. Tons of LO schools are going through the Tryon Creek Nature Park and the programs, whether it's in the summer or whether they're set up where a school comes. So there's definitely a strong connection with the LO school district, which is great to hear. So at least we know that all the young people are getting exposed to Tryon Creek and spending some time in there. And Jonathan talked a bit about like people growing up in LO, just playing and hanging around the creek. We learned a little bit of some of those stories from one of the, not directors here, but one of the people that runs programming here at ACC, because he grew up in LO. He talked about all the trouble he would get in running around Tryon Creek and doing stuff that young adults do. And I think he may have even walked
Leave
under
it to our
culvert.
imagination.
Yeah, use your imagination. You're hanging out with your friends. I think he actually he traversed the culvert, which is pretty tall, the culvert that goes from Tryon Creek to the mouth of the Willamette, the creek side. He's done that little walk through. We heard that from the Tryon Creek Watershed Council, that the people there have done it multiple times and we're really excited about walking that culvert. So these are sort of the stories that we really just talked like about what it is to work up there, and then what the future of the Foothills might bring. So it was some really interesting conversations. And we learned a little bit about Jonathan's African American, so being, Black growing up in Lake Oswego, and the words that go around in terms of how LO might be described. He's always felt comfortable in Lake Oswego. So I thought that was interesting too from growing up here. But we learned a little bit about, where you're comfortable if you're African American in this community, where places where you're comfortable and places where you're not. And he said there's definitely cues and communities about where you feel like, yeah, I can navigate this place. That was just helpful for me to have those frank conversations as we expand our outreach to others, like respond to racism and others. I think those conversations we're hoping to have a bit more of those. We have some upcoming stakeholder meetings with BIPOC organizations within Lake Oswego school districts. We're going to 2 different high schools, and we'll have sort of like a 90-minute just conversation about living in Lake Oswego and talking about the Foothills. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about a variety of different perspectives. We've talked to some students and we've talked to a range of folks, but we're excited to broaden that outreach to folks. So the other meeting we had was with the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, and Kara was a part of that conversation. And we sort of reinforced the goals that LOSN, Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, sees for the Foothills District. And a lot of the work we're doing fully aligns with that: accessibility and multimodal access, bringing housing into the district, and thinking holistically about Tryon Creek and Willamette River, and expanding the use of Foothills Park and connecting to downtown. The other pieces, how can district energy be thought about in a long-term plan? Can the wastewater treatment play a role in that? So we had some frank conversations about how the wastewater treatment plant design is progressing, and sort of what can be brought into that process and what is going to have to be kind of figured out later on. It doesn't mean that energy from waste couldn't happen in the future, but we're not like actively planning for that and trying to bring in technologies. A lot of the technology isn't advanced enough that it's readily accessible to us. So, but it was a good conversation to have. I think it put us all on kind of a level playing field and understanding of what we can really dig into, and some things that we're going to have to maybe do a lighter touch on in terms of sustainability. But it was a good conversation. LOSN is looking to expand the conversation about district energy, and they're going to look for opportunities to engage the community. And we've offered, ourselves to attend those events and be a part of it. So hopefully that'll continue. We also met with the Planning Commission on a work session, gave them a summary of our meeting with the City Council and the work of the CAC. And I think what we learned from them is, from their perspective, access in general was really important. In particular, hey, do you want to grab your name tag? They talked about access in general, but in particular pedestrian connections to downtown. That resonated with the Planning Commission. Completion of the East End URA and creation of the new Foothills urban renewal area. Obviously, that was really important, being that is a potential funding source. And ensuring that there's robust conversations with downtown businesses and coordination with Chamber. They wanted to make sure that as we're thinking about Foothills, because downtown is right there, it's neighbor, that those perspectives are included. So that's generally what we heard from the Planning Commission. And then we also met with, and this was really interesting, we met with the Jacobs team, which are designing the wastewater treatment facility. In our previous conversations with them, we had plans that were developed called 30% design plans that had the new facility location, but that was a handoff to this team. So we didn't know, are they going to progress that design as is? So we generally kind of know where the building is going to sit. We know how it's going to connect to Foothills Road. Major questions for us is, if we add a north access, additional access to the district, how does it weave its way between the old wastewater treatment plant and the new wastewater treatment facility? Where is that allowable path for us to just consider? And then we're really curious about, where is your facility going to sit? Obviously you're going to be out of the floodplain, but how are you going to tap into Foothills Road? And if we're thinking about getting portions of the development area in the district out of the floodplain, is that going to preclude access to your facility? They didn't know it in that early conversation, but everything has kind of come full circle. We know where the building is going to sit. We know how they're going to connect to Foothills Road, primarily farther west near the train tracks. And we got an aperture or an opening where we can weave in this potential north access road, whether it's coming through the public storage units or whether it's coming off Terwilliger Boulevard. And so we're pretty clear on how that facility is going to sit. So that's great for us as we start thinking about this new connection. And there's a couple of ways to think about the new road coming in off of Terwilliger and coming into the district. One is you skirt kind of the side of the wastewater treatment plant. So if you're coming from the north to the south, it'd be on your right, all the new developments left. If there's enough room, and once the old wastewater treatment facility is gone, maybe that road shifts. What would be awesome is if your road from Terwilliger came into the district and you had development sites on your right, development sites on your left. So the development is kind of blocking the wastewater treatment facility as you come in, and you're coming to something new. And you look for an opportunity maybe to expand Foothills Park closer to that road. So now you're creating this amenity that really creates a sense of arrival. I think we've all talked about, Will is fixated on this for months. is how do you know what's that signal that you're in the district, that you heard from Lisa's like, yeah, the foundry entry is horrible. It's really hard to even figure out how to get in there. So as we're thinking about this north entrance, and then we're coming into the district and trying to think about where development would land, we're in a good place now, knowing where Jacobs is and what we can sort of consider in terms of different development patterns. And we're, close to getting concepts together where we can at least have a conversation, lines on a map, get a sense of where development will occur, where it might land. So we're excited about that. And the Jacobs meeting helped give us some confidence to start developing those concepts. So we're feeling really good about that.
Were they?
Any questions?
What was their take on hearing what the plans were and how the areas being envisioned? Were they like kind of excited to hear
Oh, yeah,
that
they're
building
curious about
something?
what's happening
Yeah.
around them. I think they have a sense of it, but we started to describe what kind of place this is going to be, wants to be based on input and uses and amenities, the park itself, trails, connections, all of that. So they kind of know like, okay, yeah, the relationship between something that is industrial in nature and what you're trying to create, the tough one. So we can solve it in design, but it's always good to have them understand where we're headed through the guiding principles, and they're going to be getting all of this information too, just so they be good neighbors, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
You want
I
to
haven't-
be beautiful.
I haven't shown them any plans, no drawings yet, but I'm giving them a sense of what's happening. Yes, beneficial.
A question on the wastewater treatment facility design.
Sherry.
Do we know to what degree they are considering the public realm and that experience? Because wastewater treatment plant, there's a large gamut it can
Yeah.
run from very industrial
Yep.
to, I think of the one over in Wilsonville, it almost feels like the park in and of itself.
Yeah.
That people in the community visit, take their kids, walk their dogs, etc.
They definitely have a path that they're going. Like Stefan with the city has, and Jessica, you know this too, like there is a scope of work. They are in schedule they're trying to hit. We definitely are hinting at like, this is going to be a beautiful place and it wants to be beautiful and delightful when you approach from downtown or however, wherever you're coming from. What Jason was describing is us trying to manage what this looks like. We haven't seen a visual, a 3D or anything. We do know that it's a concrete box. There's like 3 of them or so, and they're very strong and they can withstand intense earthquake, etc. It's a safe thing, which I think it can be a good thing because we can manipulate potentially that facade, paint it, put green walls on it. They kind of know that, but they're like, let's talk through it. But definitely, I think they're starting to understand that we have a delightful community that's going to grow around them, and that we're going to be communicating what we have, precedents and spaces that we're going to design, where they can help us as much as they can, because they definitely they're ahead of schedule as well. As much as we can give them what our intentions are, the better off we are, because they can somewhat adapt. I mean, I don't know if Jessica, you can speak to their schedule and
I
their
cannot
path.
speak
Okay.
to your schedule. I do not want to try.
I know.
No, that is all Stefan Broadus.
Yes.
But it's a tall order. I
Yeah.
mean, he's trying to make this work, and I know the budget's tight. So, but I think we're doing our best to try to integrate this project with that, because the wastewater treatment relocation kind of came up after this plan had already been, in 2012. And so it got ahead of us, and now we're trying to catch up to make sure that we can all make it fit and work well. So, and it's a challenge.
Stefan is there every week with us. He's talking to them about what we're up to, and it's in the floodplain. We're going to resolve that through our design. They're excited about that too. They're learning from what we're doing. So it's hopefully in tandem. We'll see. And next time we meet, there's visuals, plans, and so that's when we'll start to see spatial relationships, size, scale, all of that. 3D model. If somebody is excited about the 3D model, someone ask me that.
Yeah, that's possible. Excuse me, speaking on the industrial part, a 2-part question. Have you had any conversations with PGE about what might or might not be done with the substations? And then secondly, have you had a chance to visit the substation there in the Goose Hollow neighborhood, which is right in the middle of the neighborhood?
I have visited the Goose Hollow. You mentioned it last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I did.
Yeah. PGE is on our TAC, I believe.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're a part of the crew chat about. We don't know what's going to happen. We haven't drawn anything really, but
Just
we're
asking.
excited about.
But we have a representative, and where are the projects? So we did that initial introduction with them. And I think as we develop concepts and start looking at paths and alignments for roads, see substation that may or may not be in an optimal location, that they're ready as part of the TAC to respond to that and let us know. I mean, they've told us how it functions and who it's serving and the importance of that. So Yeah, we're at least aware of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I think we can probably jump into this, maybe.
Yeah.
Has it been a month since we've seen each other?
Almost, yeah.
Seems like it's been longer.
I think that's what-
You was next time.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. Feels cool. I felt like we had a pretty good repetition going there. And suddenly it gets quiet. You're like, "God, you don't like us anymore." No, what we wanted to do today is, it was a great exercise that we had. You were all extremely patient. We were doing something for the first time, even for us, with Mentimeter, and then trying to input to Mentimeter at the same time that we're trying to navigate ourselves. So everyone did an awesome job, and Randy had some thoughts too, to just help it be better. And Eric, he's kind of a worry, so he had a lot of things that he wanted to talk about with that. But I think we were excited with what came out of that. And so today we're going to summarize what we learned from all that work. The goal of it was to build some consensus around a vision statement, which gives us just sort of a way to talk about the future of the district and how we sort of aspire and want to see it be this thing. And then we'll highlight some guiding principles that we think are really important as we think about design, as we think about access, and all these different components of the objectives of the project, that they're these sort of holistic things that help guide us, that allow us to sort of measure trade-offs, because maybe we value this as much or more than that. So that's what the guiding principles help us do. So we thought we would just go through what we learned from the last meeting, and then the exercises sort of piece together. Well, why did we do that exercise, and what did that lead us toward? I think that's what we're going to highlight here. So that first question was core values, what success looks like in 30 years. And, these are the bullets that came out of that exercise. Maintaining that public access to the waterfront was extremely important. Active district, lived in, not just visited. So we can see what sort of those core values were: economic vitality with livability. So maybe not maximizing the profit, but the quality. And certainly this idea of feeling like it's distinctly like Oswego. And there's a lot of triggers that I think help define that. And we've heard some of those keywords, so we'll be able to dig into that. But certainly tree canopy, human scale, connected to the river and park, those are really obvious. So I think the outcome of that is that the district is considered is much a redevelopment area as it is a public place for people from Lake Oswego, because Foothills Park is so important and prominent that the neighborhood will add to the vitality, but the core of the district is still, I think, from a community perspective, really rooted in the riverfront. So I think we're understanding the importance of that. But that new daily life will contribute to the district. The non-negotiables, what must not be lost, access key, the connection to nature, ensuring development, that's really important to Lake Oswego. See that in redevelopment of downtown, and the community benefit. Continuing the Foothills continues to be a community benefit is important. And so this might summarize. So I think people are open to change. They know that there's going to be this influx of redevelopment in that space between the Foothills and the downtown. And so I think as long as that key asset is still accessible and attainable and enhanced, then I think generally people are comfortable with future redevelopment in Foothills. So big idea, clarifies identity, not program. Foothills is seen as a special place. Blending these three things. Memorable, not over commercialized or generic. Okay. Keeping that sense of place still whole. Key trade-offs, conditional acceptance of more people and activity. Remember how we asked that question? Like, we know things are going to change. More people and activity, if access, circulation, and public spaces still work, that was kind of the trade-off. We get that. There's going to be more people here, but as long as that asset is still accessible and attainable, that's what is important. Increased development of affordability and public benefit, I guess, are real. That is, if we're talking about affordability, then we need to embed that into the district in some form. And that public benefit, I think, continues to be access to the river and good connections between the river and downtown. Key trade-offs where flexibility exists and doesn't. Congestion without alternative ways to get around. That's an issue. Like if we're not thinking holistically about mobility, there's going to be additional access to the district. Maybe there's two, but we're also thinking of these walk and bike connections too, that there's going to be multiple points of access on that array across state streets, that it isn't limited and we can increase accessibility as much as possible. And then, it is kind of the hidden gem today. And so again, if we're not maintaining the quality of that space and access to that space, that wouldn't be good. So intentional design, mitigation, that means keeping systems intact, a good healthy river, good healthy creek. We know we're doing some fill, but we need to balance that and so on. So intentional design is really important. This idea of public return is also extremely important. This is a statement from, any questions about that? So I think everyone's comfortable with that. I grabbed the vision statement from the previous plan to just sort of think about that and see where kind of we're in alignment or deviation. It didn't mean to align or not, but I think the original plan definitely saw the area as like the next great neighborhood on the riverfront. We knew that enhanced connections via the streetcar was an important catalyst for that development. That was kind of stated in their words. And I think it in general, it was aligned with us in terms of access, connections to downtown. That was very similar. Expanding and increasing access to Foothills Park was a part of that. Protecting Tryon Creek were all values in that previous document. Looking for retail and commercial activity, so wanting it to be an active district and not just out back and behind. So I think those components I think probably carried over to what we learned in our exercise with you all. And I'll slow down here and let Will step in as we begin to sort of take a look at the vision statement.
Yeah.
Crafting now.
If you go back one,
Sure.
like, this is a lot. There's a lot here in the vision statement. And I guess how we like to operate is trying to get to like having a vision statement that's very succinct, simple, like states exactly what we're trying to build. Usually I like to see that as like a sentence or two or three, you can get it there. And I think that's where I feel like we need to go. Now, this next slide really takes the 2012. We didn't want to just throw it away. Obviously, we want to evolve it with like some credibility. We're learning more now during the discovery phase. Things are changed since then. There's some new information that we're learning. New information about honoring history and biodiversity, connections to nature, inclusivity, housing. All of these things are new additional pieces. And that sentence is taken from the original 12 with some bullets that we could incorporate into the new. I think this is sort of a good summary of what we've learned and what was kind of they thought about back then. We don't want to discredit anything, but still it's pretty long. It's like a lot here still. And the beauty of the guiding principles, which we have, which 6 of them, I'm going to present those. We're going to talk through those each. Those 6 usually are supporting the vision. The vision is a big statement. What are you building? What do you want to grow? And then the 6 is how you do it. Let's leave the words to the guiding principles and how you do it, not the vision statement, because it's like you're going to lose us if you read all of this and you're like, exhausting. Okay, so I'm glad that you're hearing me. So before we talk about the vision statement, I'd like to actually go through the 6 guiding principles because we have to understand what's going to be supported. So the next actually is go back one more. This is starting to simplify it. So it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It could even get small, but we'll read that in a second. Let's go through the guiding principles. And we appreciate this discovery phase. And it takes a while to talk through all of this. But these are important because they guide design and they're going to change and evolve as we continue to talk to people. Even when we start drawing lines, you're going to learn more. Even the friends of Tryon Creek, well, we learned a lot during that session about creating a welcoming environment and being inclusive and just the powerful connections that exist just from that welcome center to the water. It checked the boxes of many, many guiding principles in learning from this space and also talking to them. And even we added number 6 just because it was so powerful, those conversations. So guiding principles, here they are. So 6 of them. So prioritize clear and safe public access and multimodal connections. Okay, connections, yes, that's a biggie. We all often talk about that with anybody we talk to. Connections. Those could be physical, yeah, or also emotional. Maybe not just about getting there, but also seeing that there's some evidence there. So there's lots of connections we can build in that first one. Restoration of and enhancement of natural systems. Yes, ecological systems are all around us, like everywhere, which is great. And we want to build more of that. So that's an obvious one. And these are not in any particular order. They're just 6. You don't need to prioritize them. They're just all going to be involved in the design. So supporting everyday use, we talked about that. Community life, events, grow more of that. More events you don't have, complementary uses. With downtown, this is an extension of downtown. So we want to make sure that we're playing nice, being good neighbors, offering something that is different. Number 4, diversity in housing types. Yes. So all tenures, we get into funding strategies, be creative in that way. But I think making sure that we're providing the right type of housing types, scale, all ages, all abilities, all of that. Lots of different types of people living here, working together, and also attracting people who will be future residents. So that's an important number 4. Use of topography. Yes, downtown context, just being adaptable and synergistic. It could be different, but just being complementary in scale as you are downtown. Looking towards the foothills, that you're not disrupting anything that's a vista or a view, but it is of good scale and understanding the vernacular, even in architecture as well, which we'll start to see when we start to see concepts and precedents and things like that. The last one, create a welcoming and safe, inclusive neighborhood, honors the land, history, stories, so many stories we're hearing, so many opportunities to have a storyline here about just culture and embracing new residents as well, and new stories and new futures. It's that's the fun one for me. Like there's lots of integration of arts and just expression that could happen here. It already exists on the park, but even just highlighting that and rendering that visible even more is pretty exciting. So I'm going to leave it here. There's 6 of them. I guess the question is, have we left anything out? Do you see something that needs to be added, removed, or?
Well, I'm wondering about, in looking at the 2012 version and then our evolving version and
Yes.
these guiding principles. So the 2012 version, one thing that I think is really, and I totally hear you about too many words in the vision statement. So this is like how do we figure out how to make it all work, right?
Yep.
But it's really clear, like sustainability is going to be incorporated. It's a central tenet of the development of the district.
Yep.
And that's totally lost all of a sudden. And I think that we need to think carefully. And I think actually it's part of a lot of these things, right?
Yeah.
And so we just need to think about how do we include language so that it doesn't get lost but we're making sure that it is still a central tenant.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It
Like, I
does,
think-
because sustainability could be economics, could be
Exactly.
technology, yes, but also
Yes.
it's equity and social.
Exactly. So
Yes.
it all fits together as a big puzzle ball, but we need to make sure that it's called out. Like, I
Yep.
think this is really beautifully called out as a simple sentence in the first, the original 2012.
Yeah.
But anyway, again, I totally hear you about
Yeah.
the wordiness, so I just wanted to say that.
I absolutely agree. Let's be somewhat blunt and clear about what our intentions are. And I agree, that is something that is important because you're on the water. It's obvious we need to be just sustainable, but also it could grow into something even more sustainable, and maybe even a model for sustainable development on the water.
Exactly.
There's things that might be invented that we want to make sure we incorporate here that we don't know about yet. It's very flexible in that regard.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Yes, thank you for that. And it could even end up in the vision statement as a statement as
Right.
well. Thank you.
Technicality point, I agree with the sustainable, but also sustainable in the sense of the businesses that we won't want to encourage that. I mean, I think that part of the sustainability, the practicality of
It's all, yeah.
Vibrancy,
Mhm.
right? Making sure.
The business
Business
vibrancy is
successful.
part of that.
It's not
Like, it's not
putting a lot of
sustainable if you don't, yes.
and that could kind of go back to when you're considering the downtown and that relationship. I think there's some value in talking to some of the developers, and there's some parts of our development that aren't working maybe as well or haven't
Mhm.
sustained as
Mhm.
well as could be. And there's always a chance to do better, learn more, make
Mhm.
improvements on those things to enhance the sustainability
Yeah.
of the economic parts of the
Mhm.
development. Yeah.
But I think too with sustainable, when you talk about sustainable development, there's environmental protections are kind of built right into that. And when we're talking about, restoring fish passage, there's that buffer zone that has to be protected. And then obviously, the rivers right there. So making sure that for the next 40 years, whoever builds stuff there knows that there's certain environmental protections to fit into that as well.
And you could enhance one of the guiding principles, I think number 2, as to bluntly saying that,
Mhm.
like protect and enhance. And then you can have supporting documents, diagrams, and say, okay, here are the parameters. Yeah.
I was just going to backtrack because I was just thinking about what you were just saying, Lisa, and just thinking about as we're talking about, potential building in the Foothills district for businesses, et cetera, what is the pull on spaces in the downtown core and keeping businesses in that core? And I think we just have to maybe give that some thought in how that will interplay and how, because we don't want to end up with empty storefronts in downtown, or we can never fill business spaces, commercial spaces in Foothills because, or whatever. However, I think it's just something we got to think about.
Economically sustainable.
Economically
There you go.
sustainable. It's all a piece of the puzzle.
Yes, it is.
And when you're talking about diversity, I'm not sure what you mean by tenures. What do you mean?
Mainly ages,
Okay, and then
different ages.
yep.
Yep.
And then
But
I
also renting versus owning.
Yeah, resource zoning, yeah.
and then I think somehow we want to say diversity of types of people. Like, I think we all think that like Oswego has been, sort of one type of person for too long, and that we want to somehow draw different types of people and make different kinds of people feel more welcome in like Oswego. And I don't think we've quite said that.
Number 6 alludes to that a bit.
Welcoming.
As a principle.
And inclusive.
But we're on
Okay.
the vision statement right now.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, there you go.
It's both, you're right,
Good
yeah.
balance into that statement, sustainability being one, you're saying.
Yep.
Diversity in terms of.
I guess when you're listing housing types, tenures, funding strategy, I just wanted, I felt like I wanted Peoples.
It's in there too. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So would it be
definitely.
population inclusion or something like that instead of just community? Where you're specifically talking more about the people who live there?
Number 4, is that where we're at? Yeah. I think we should incorporate that. Allude
Well,
to,
I think 6 is getting into diversity where we're
Mhm.
Yeah.
new residents, sorry, that gets kind of locked off at the bottom.
Mhm.
New residents, cultures and futures. So I mean, I think it's trying to open the door to a welcome a new place. I keep thinking about when the future development unfolds and what that experience is going to be like for everyone. That finally, when you can cross State Street and see the river, and then you're moving into the space where there's people living and the park unfolds right in front of you. People who live here are going to be experiencing that in kind of an exciting way. New people who live there are experiencing Lake Osuga maybe for the first time in this amazing space. So there's going to be all these people. It's going to be new for everyone. New people coming in the community, people who've been here forever who now get to experience this in a different way and experiencing different people as a result. Just the fact that you'll be coming back to this space in the future and its reincarnated state is gonna offer something. So I think as we think about that, like that's the thing that's gonna happen. As I think about the vision statement and sort of the core things that go in there. And so I'm hearing Michaeline here about sustainability and thinking about that in some broad terms, because I think we're trying to link that as a little more holistically than what we typically think of as about environment and protecting rivers and stormwater and things like that. So I think we can work that in. We can continue to talk about it here, but I think we can come back and try and own that statement a little bit more, still keeping it as tight as we can. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
It's like it's so much nicer if we can say it in a few sentences and everyone feel pretty good about that, because it's just so much easier to tell the story of this district when it's kind of laid out in simple terms. So I think that's the goal here. So let's keep going. And I think we're absorbing what everyone's saying here. And
we can go to the next slide. It's the first one. And what we've done, we've stated it at the top. We've elaborated a little bit about what it means. But I like to have a conversation about what does that mean as far as design? So prioritizing clear and safe public access and multimodal connections. That's between downtown, Lake Oswego and the river. And just thinking about broader system of regional transportation, meaning bike, trails, things like that. And we do talk about, that strong walking and biking and street connections, etc. We've added a few design strategies, which would mean like you see these things that end up in the concept plan. So for example, literally the grid of the downtown is extended. Like literally, you draw that. Now we're not going to go right over the rail line, but we're going to accommodate the rail, but it does feel like you can get from downtown walking without any constraint, like walking down the street, buildings, and you can go down to the water. That's one way of bridging that connection, creating that connection. It's a hard one, but we've started to explore ways of expanding the grid. Another one is just bike routes, obviously. And I want to get more to add to these design considerations because we want to start drawing them. If there's any ideas that you have about prioritizing those connections, yes, the road network, extending A Street, maybe like right down to it.
certainly a visual clue.
Right.
A extends through, B extends through. Does a car drive through there? Maybe not. But visually, you're creating
Interesting.
this moment to visually extend toward the waterfront. And things then fill in between A and B, for instance. But this to take a broad guiding principle and say, well, how are you guys who are laying these things out in the district? When you get this guiding principle number 1, what are you looking to do? And that's what these design considerations are sort of giving everyone here a sense of like that guiding principle is gonna give us some direction on how we lay out the street grid. And
When you talk about extending A and B, are you talking about a third and fourth entrance into the Foothills area? Because
could be visual.
A bit- okay.
Maybe you
Well,
can't
well,
get over the train track.
okay, visual I get,
Yeah.
but you were talking, when I was just listening.
I said that.
Yeah, Will
I got-
give you.
I got,
He'll say things that will blow your circuits. Yeah.
Yeah.
well, the circuit was blowing, but
Yeah.
you're saying, one, that's a real steep topography.
Yeah.
And two, there's not a lot of developable space down there. And if we're gonna have another entrance, whether it's off of Terwilliger or through the other possibility,
Mhm.
I don't think you're gonna need a third and a fourth entrance for cars.
Yes.
Correct.
You
Yeah.
need two entrances.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
This would be like a pedestrian crossing
Stairs.
over.
okay, so you're talking like
Pedestrian crosses the
The one
road,
steps.
and then there's like, stairs
Okay.
going down.
That could be.
that.
If I don't
understand.
ask the
Yeah.
question, that means I'm not exploring the idea. And now I've explored the idea and you've given me some things to think about.
Okay.
Is
Is that a nice way of saying you're not gonna do it?
It is possible, is possible, but whether it makes the plan, I don't know yet.
Well, I appreciate the broad exploration. Visioning, but I'm sort of reminded, okay, it's like those, give me a place to stand and I can move, and a lever and I
Yeah.
can move the earth,
Yeah.
okay? A car access off of A and B isn't gonna happen. Stop talking about it.
So there's
No, I
a,
don't think anybody, yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think we've been talking about a visual access.
Visual, great.
And pedestrian.
And visual and pedestrian.
And perhaps not a gondola, but
But not-
Maybe.
You're not gonna do a car.
A funicular. State Street is such a hard edge and it is so like unfriendly to cross.
Mhm.
So, in my mind, just having something where it feels comfortable, it feels inviting to go down there. I mean, that to me is
And
incredible.
that
So-
would be Willamette Step.
And what
Yeah.
what we like to do is re-envision 43 as well, like just State Street and like give it a bit of a diet. ODOT, we've talked to them. They're like, let's explore. It's not a critical like arterial for them. And they're like, okay, how do you make it more pedestrian friendly? How do you make it easy to cross?
And they're loaded with money.
Pedestrian connections, all of that is kind of, yeah.
They'll tell you they're poor. They're
Yeah.
strapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't sarcastic about it.
Well, and you have the railroad too.
That's right.
And I mean, just
you
visually
navigate
now,
that?
let's say you're standing at the corner there and you look.
Yeah.
There's zero. I mean, maybe B has more of an opportunity to visually.
Yeah.
If you're talking about just pedestrian type.
We
That's
also,
like the
we also
worst
look
possible
at
thing.
examples too. We do that a lot. Not like architects will look at precedents for buildings. We look at space. There's a lot of great examples of rail being close to community and how you transverse that, connect through it. Even locally, South Waterfront has a few examples we were looking at where it's like, okay, this can be done. So we're learning from precedents. And you mentioned another one for the power station. That's a great precedent. So these are ones that we're looking for, which you'll see in the next round when we meet. Like these are things that can be done. How do you use those lessons learned and create space here as well? So, but I'm hearing connections. We have pedestrian. Yes, obviously that's really great. Any other ones that we?
I'd consider the North Anchor project as well, like not just A Street, but also B Street. That will be a very large development that will, I think, ABP is going to, it's a little bit of not quite as bright and shiny as the other side of A Street.
Yep.
But wanting to make sure that those businesses are included in this, not just the A Street connection.
I mean, the B actually feels more like the actual place where it could happen. When you look at A, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's
actually a
very
building right there that
pretty.
would have to have something done, but I mean, that whole vision of North Anchor and moving people that way, and then you think about it going down. I mean, it makes more sense over there than it does.
Yeah, it's already
If
open.
the-
Yeah, A is just so much busier than B, like just for pedestrian safety. Like to me, it would make more sense to have people crossing at not the major T intersection.
Yes.
And I think in 2012, that was another part of that conversation, that B was really felt like that place.
Yeah, stepchild.
Well,
Well, they were extending. I mean, B was kind of.
B
that
was it.
New aperture.
Yeah, it wasn't a stepchild, it was.
Development was gonna
Like
focus on
stepchild
that
now.
corridor, yeah. You know, and as we create more opportunities in and out of the district, part of the goal is to take some of the pressure off some key intersections where kind of too much traffic is funneling into. One of the issues with A Street in particular is that free right from A Street onto State Street, where as a pedestrian, you have to stand on this little pork chop island part of the way through to get across the intersection. But we need to stop doing stuff like that. MoDOT just needs to take a chill pill or whatever it is. My goal in life is to remove every pork chop I can in the community that I come into. Is this idea of cars shouldn't have to stop for free running. There's always a conflict point. So trust me, I'm going to be looking at how to improve that pork chop today and improving access at B and improving access down at the fountain. So
I wanted to say that I appreciate adding the potential circulator or shuttle as part of the multimodal connections. To keep that on the list to explore and maybe develop.
Marius Woods has a group that they take down to the park. They have a shuttle. So that's a circuit. So we want to make sure we keep that and add to it if we can. That can happen from the library or the schools, things like that.
we're working in Battleground and also Anacortes. In Battleground, C-Tran is, and maybe I mentioned this before, they're doing it's basically Uber with C-Tran. So they have 4 paratransit vehicles that holds like 15 people. Typically they had lifts so that, people in a wheelchair could get to doctor visits. And typically you went online and you set a time and the van came to your house. Well, now it's all going to be app driven and they're going to have 4 vehicles sitting in 4 different locations in Battleground, Washington. And people are just going to use their app and it's instant, 15 minutes, you're going to have a ride there. 10 minutes, you're going to have a ride there. And you're paying C-Tran prices for that. So you're not paying Uber prices. And it isn't for people who have a bus pass. If you have an app, you can access it. If it's a student who's trying to get to practice or go meet friends somewhere, that's how it's going to work. And so they're testing this in Battleground. Anacortes is doing a similar thing with Skagit Transit. So they're doing a similar thing. They've got a grant. They're going to drop 4 vehicles into Anacortes, and now people can basically kind of Uber around through transit. So I think once this district evolves, and even before then, maybe that's something that like Oswego can start thinking about now, so that once this thing is in place, we're just kind of dialing in it, because transit is just transit ridership is going way down
Because you can't get it in a timely way.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of getting the vehicles and then setting
Transit on
for
demand.
that type of use on demand versus all waiting at the stop and the spoken wheel where all the buses go into downtown and go back out. I mean, I live on the east side of Portland and I'll be goddamn if I can't get to neighborhoods north and south. I can get to downtown, no problem. It takes me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But if I want to go from Hawthorne to Alberta or Mississippi, or if I want to go down to Woodstock, it's just a windy path. Yeah, there's no way to do it. So these are kind of changing the rules a little bit. Exciting.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was gonna say in other cities on the East Coast, you see that. They're called jitneys. It's like little,
Oh, yeah.
they're just everywhere.
Mhm.
You just get on, you pay. It's like a little mini bus.
Yeah,
Yeah. The days of the big buses.
Yeah.
it's even better than the old school circulators. Sometimes we're good, especially in tourist areas, because they'll run you by the waterfront and back into downtown, and they're pretty dependable. And you wait 10 minutes and you hop on.
I mean, if we had something like that, that would be great. That, stopped at Lorax, stopped, at Safeway, certain key places where people, you just have to walk maybe a couple blocks to your house or wherever you're going. But,
It's in the way.
25 years ago, the city did a study on a circulator around the lake. I don't know if it's been digitized or not, but it was done.
What form?
On paper,
What was it?
a shuttle bus circulating around the lake.
Yeah.
They studied it more recently too.
More recently, okay.
Last year, yeah.
About 25 years ago.
Challenge.
Well, the reason I remembered it was on the committee, so.
Let's go to number 2 and talk about those design considerations. And I will say this is protection of natural systems and enhancement. That this is an obvious one. This is ecologically leaning towards the same sustainability model, but design considerations, we've listed a few, just they're obvious. Just habitat restoration, green corridors, stormwater, the tree canopy here, like tree canopy culture, and this week was amazing. So let's extend that here as well. That seems like a really great one. I think there's other ones. I think storyline, communication, public art could also educate at least about systems and where we live here and where water comes from and where's this Willamette hook to, the source and the outfall, things like that. Obviously, there's a culvert.
OMSI redevelopment district is planning something similar of a indigenous approach to the river and water management. So there might be some precedent to draw on there.
Perfect. Yes, exactly. We're talking to the Grand Ron soon. Talk about that as well. So we're bringing that up. That's great. It's a good OMSI is a great example.
There's also a push to use native plants in gardens, that don't need much water.
Mm-hmm.
And they survive better with our changing heat, our increased heat.
Yeah. Well, part of the Friends of Tryon Creek, they are cultivating seeds and
Yeah.
replenishing native plants that certainly are along the
They
creek
have-
edge, so which is
Mhm.
pretty awesome.
They have a native
You
plant
can buy the
sale.
seeds there. You can
Yeah.
buy them in the shop.
Mhm.
It's pretty cool.
We talked to them about a satellite moment or a presence on the waterfront as well.
Mhm.
The Foothills, just so they can kind of connect to each other, and maybe it's like a little moment where they
Maybe it's that old house that we went by.
Yeah,
and we-
old house.
Yeah,
There's the
lots of
club and
opportunity
the-
there.
yeah, level. There's some,
Couch included.
they were really excited about that. Extending Tryon Creek, having something down.
Well, yeah, they could
Yeah.
have their native plant sale, there perhaps instead of at Tryon Creek, and it'd be a lot more visible.
Mhm. Moving to the next. guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Second.
Perfect.
These are. Leto.
Well,
And, yeah,
an example of the plants that work best here.
Yes.
they're all
Look at-
yeah, they're all
Yeah,
there.
to plant those. And then, you can save a lot of money in irrigation if we plant it that way.
I love that. Number 3, this is really about being complementary of just uses and programming and supporting everyday life events, new events, extension of downtown, but it's also has new areas, new programming. Obviously, we've talked about just active use, the right type of active use down there, and just making sure that we have vitality economically as well. Just making sure that with our analysis for the ECHO's done an analysis on the economics and talk to developers, just making sure that we're planting the right seed that will thrive, and that programming is right and that type of use is right. The flexibility in open spaces and plazas and all of that has to happen.
I'd say here, like coming from the development angle, like
Yeah.
adaptability is really necessary for that 30-year time horizon where we don't know how things will be happening. We might, we recently saw in 2020, a downturn in office occupancy.
That's right.
Being able to have that adaptability and flexibility so that we don't have now empty ground floor active use, that we can pivot and say, could something else be in here for a little bit through code, but also through just like the buildings themselves. I've seen people build parking lots that are built to a residential code so they can be converted into housing in the future for, parking garages.
Yeah.
So
The
really,
geometry of those.
having that for the long-term sustainability, adaptability, and flexibility of uses thoughtfully put in at the beginning, and not just saying, this is what we think is good now and working now, because we don't know the future economics of our society.
Want to kind of piggyback on that, the idea, I know this came up in the LOSN meeting, but the idea of a clean energy district, I mean, being forward thinking about future proofing, like this is an opportunity to maybe create this showcase, and that could be a piece of the sustainability. And certainly with the changing climate on our planet, we're going to need to start thinking about, and technologies may be changing and we may not yet know what's going to be available, but how can we strategically plan this out so that we can embrace those as they become possibilities,
We had, when Lakeview Village went in, the community was so kind of high centered on the retail environment that there was a lot of kind of zone restrictions on the village, and then over time, the property owners came and said, hey, like we can't lease these spaces out. Type of businesses you're insisting that they be. And so we've kind of over time then just removed the restrictions, like, whoever wants it,
The thing,
we are A-okay, put them in there.
Yeah.
The other thing with that we've noticed with new developments, all top of the market development, and it can be real challenging for the kind of local businesses people like when we look at those in the community where they're at. I mean, they're in like the older developments, the older stuff, and I mean, maybe some people don't care, but does the community want the Foothills development to be a carbon copy of the Vancouver waterfront or this? I mean, you start seeing a lot of towns, it's the same places, even some new developments. I mean, Lisa, I know this, they're high risk and they don't want to take on the risk of, I mean, they want to go with the known a national brand,
And part of that's just the financing too, is that you need a like AAA accredited anchor tenant.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
all.
and I think it's yet to be seen how much retail and that type of is actually needed in Foothills.
Sure.
I mean,
Yes.
I know people think, oh, like a coffee shop. It's like, it's not quite that simple. And I think you're a developer who's going to build housing there is going to pencil that. But in some places, the requirements have been, you need this, we demand that you have this much retail. And I think that's a bad idea because it's not always called for. And I worry that we get in that mindset of like, well, everything's gonna have ground floor. You tell them they'll have all these cute shops. And it's like, oh, well, they can't pay 60 a foot to make a cute little shop. So, and that's what the market might say.
It's really easy to draw that, by the way. I always get frustrated. It's like, oh, all this you can draw that.
Yeah.
But
And I said, that's.
Beautiful, pretty pictures.
It does, and you show them walking in.
Yeah, let's go to River Place. Let me show you how active River Place is.
It's just a really
restaurant that does okay and everything in line that's not visually connected to that location.
And I think that's when she was talking about like sustainability. I'm thinking that way very much. It's like, what does the market really want at a given time, and how can that evolve? And how can we not be locked into what are we going to do with all this ground floor retail that's sitting there? And the idea of saying, sure, the developers came back and said, hey, we can't rent for the uses that you insisted be here, but now we're getting B, C type retail in spaces that no one ever envisioned there that aren't a good fit either. That's what's so I mean, it really has to pencil in and say, okay, with this number of people, this is the amount of retail you need. I mean, I think nationally, there's been a real conversation to say that we're really over retailed. Especially with the way people shop now, and that you have to be very strategic about it.
But we also have a really tight, in downtown, like a really low vacancy for our retail and office spaces too. So does that mean that we have a demand in the capacity? I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
But it may only
no.
be 10,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Or
I said
Half of it is
8,000.
We don't really, I mean,
Yeah.
like, look where Posh, now that's gonna be another credit, it's another bank.
Yeah.
A huge bank with a
Yeah.
financial services next to it. It's like,
Like one now.
Yeah.
That-
I don't know if it's gonna be big.
that's not, I mean, we just keep getting
Yeah.
more big banks. You look at Lake Grove. I mean, there's so many big banks.
Yeah.
And
Banks
it's
and spas.
right on the
Yeah.
coast. I mean, well, service,
That
you get
expenses.
service retail, you don't get actual retail. So it's,
Yeah.
banks are gonna want those spaces all day long. That doesn't mean you should build for them
Yeah.
because.
No, you should ban banks.
Yeah.
But, 100% more.
Just that's not a
Close
good.
all the time.
That's not.
They take the spaces.
Yeah.
It's not active.
Yeah, it's not contributing to the public realm, it's.
Did you have a comment?
But you have situations, landlords.
I mean, they're
Love that.
contributing to the public realm in
South waterfront,
intangible ways, but not the
That's a
physical bank.
high-end apartments, no grocery store.
Yeah.
People paying the kind of money that they're paying to live in South Waterfront are not going to get on the streetcar and schlep over to the Safeway and bring their groceries back. And they just, the people who, I mean, I'm glad to see South Waterfront having redeveloped, but when they thought they were going to have a grocery store down there, it was, what were they thinking?
Is it
Very true.
coming back to this design opportunity?
Yeah, no
And-
grocery store.
A lot of times when we design waterfronts, we create a wall of development that's separate because those are the properties that want the best view on the waterfront. And you atrophy all this stuff behind it. And even the stuff that's on the water doesn't do all that great because it doesn't have the visibility where all the people are on the drive-by traffic. When we were working on a project in Springfield and the Glenwood property, this is on the other side of the Willamette River from downtown Springfield, was their redevelopment area. And that was their initial plan for years, is they line housing and hotels along the river with the trail. And we said, it's actually the view of the river that's more important than being right on the river's edge. And what if you took all your buildings and you ran them perpendicular to the river and you created these open spaces that were view corridors from Franklin Boulevard all the way to the river? And so now you got properties that are near the river's edge. You have all these properties fronting an open space that takes you right to the river. You can create 12 more higher valued development sites by bringing these park blocks in toward Franklin Boulevard than you would just lining that one end and having the back of house everywhere else. And we're all looking at the back of this development because that's where all the parking was and the roads were too wide. They're like 3-4 lanes wide. It's like, you don't even know if there's a river over there or not. No idea.
But
So it's-
yeah, on that point, just to follow up, and also with the cost of development that it's going to be to go down in the Foothills area, the kind of retail, commercial service, the rules we have around it should just go on the assumption it's going to be middle to high end. I don't know what it is, but you're not going to see the gift shop selling T-shirts
Yeah.
down there. Okay, and so we shouldn't try and force that. Just acknowledge it's going to be a different category going to be down there. It's going to be higher end, just because of the cost of development.
I mean, does it have to be? Can we build a library down there? Can we build a food cart pod down there? I mean,
No models of the Iron Forest?
There you go. Yeah.
I don't think we know yet. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see as we evolve what the potential, retail versus a public use amenity. I think that's an interesting conversation to have. Different than, and the high end versus, you could look at what happened at Lakeview Village. Look at the original tenants there. Golden Goose. I high-end garden shop. There were a lot of places that optimistically went in there and did not work.
Good point.
And that, I mean, the turnover there, you still don't even, the Windward's not full. I mean, you have spaces there that are sat for a long time.
And the high-end restaurants there didn't work.
I mean, the promise of that, it's very tricky stuff, but I don't think that's even a high consideration retail at this juncture. We're still just trying to get into the space and see where the potential development might be.
Exactly.
And then how public amenities, not retail, not commercial, but public amenities might fit down there or anchor down there. I think
Well,
that's an
I mean,
interesting point to make.
The food cart, that's one that perennially comes up, but people are gonna come on their bikes and they're gonna
Yeah.
come for the concerts and they're gonna come, you know, and it's not high, you know, people can come have lunch from Tryon Creek, people who live there, something like that. I mean, it's not anything we have anywhere else.
And that's it. Food carts, for example, are unique to our city. We don't have another location. And it's something that might be a draw for that reason in part. And then the reasons you mentioned, other activities going on, people coming down to have lunch in the Foothills area.
Yeah.
That might be an attractive.
And it's actually just a parking lot with electricity. It can always turn into something else if one.
I think about phased development,
Yeah.
where you're building a certain portion.
Absolutely.
You have other areas, we clear the land, we fence around it. You could open that, you could put a bike guard. This is what we did at the hike in Vancouver. All this asphalt left over from tearing the mall down. So let's build a bike garden. It's 2.5 acres and kids learn how to ride their bikes and they're safe and they're in a fence and, you know, we'll put development on it in 3 years when we build the first streets for infrastructure. So I think you absolutely can program retail or food and beverage into some of these.
Sometimes those interim uses, communities fall in love with them.
Yeah.
They don't want to get rid of them. So then it's like, okay, you tested it and now it either is enjoyable and successful or it's not. So you change it. It's low cost, high impact kind of stuff.
Same with the food cart pod. It's almost like a test market. You have your food cart. It does really well. You build a fan base here in Lake Oswego, and then you move into one of the permanent retail spaces, and people don't have a way to test the market as a new business right now.
Something I was thinking about as we were talking is I've seen in design lately this sort of return to analog as sort of a rejection of overuse of phones and technology. And it made me wonder if we could have a value of this development or part of it to be sort of a rejection of technology and a return to being social. Because
Space for connection.
yes,
It's 100% what I was thinking too. And I wanted to ask about Monica if she had any input on that too, as a young person, not to put you on the spot, but I mean, finish your thought, Melissa, but I was thinking about that because I wanted to check in with Ryan. What do you want to see down there?
Because we've forgotten how to do it, right? And I feel like young people don't necessarily know how to be social, and we've sort of forgotten how to be social, and we're all craving it. And I feel like we could have activities down there that really are creating that and reminding us all how to do it. And maybe even have zones where phones aren't allowed or technology is not allowed, and have little signs up that like give the hello. And and I remember visiting Linfield College, and I was calling on them as a client, and I was like, so what's the deal? I keep hearing how you know, everyone loves Linfield, and here it is in McMinnville, you know, and why does everyone love Linfield? And people tell me, well, I think it's because it's so friendly. And I was like, yeah, and why is it so friendly? And they're like, well, I think it starts with the Linfield hello. And it's like this tradition, the Linfield hello. And it's like, you know, maybe we need to start an hello. Because it's like,
Ask my family that way.
Start doing that as a part of this group.
Yeah.
yeah,
Starting all of our meetings. We'll do
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like people don't say good morning.
Kept
or-
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
or-
No, it is interesting if you're walking around like the bay or the lake or something and you pass people, some of them will look at you and say good morning or whatever, and others, avert their gaze and aren't all engaged.
Yeah.
But Tara mentioned the library, and I don't know how many of you noticed the city council meeting at the end of January where the library board made a presentation and talking about potential. I think maybe they were visioning. And one of the points they made, I thought, was, where's a location for a new library if one is needed and if one is approved? Where would that location be? And they were saying very few spaces to build a new library. So I think, as we get into our visioning, that might be something we might consider as well, among other things, for public spaces, cultural, socially interactive spaces.
Well, and it's so centrally located to all the different sides of LO. It's not too far from any, from any of the sides of the lake, so.
Though it's not on the west side, but particularly.
Monica, did you want to weigh in on?
Yes, well, I did, I believe it was actually last year, but I'm on Youth Action Council. And we did talk a little bit about the library trying to relocate because it had some structural issues. So I do think that could be a pretty good place for it. And also, I do like the food court idea, and I feel like Foothills could be a good community place because thinking about downtown LO, like by like Pizzeria Sorlago in that area. I remember when I was younger, after like my softball practices, we would go have like team dinners there, and then we would end up spending a lot of time in just that open space and just like hang out together. So turning that Foothills into an area kind of like that, I think could also be really
Yeah, also like people get married in the Foothills Park. Like what a great opportunity for like businesses to like be able to cater the wedding out of their food cart right there in the park.
And another thing is I was thinking with when we were working on the Parks 2040 stuff, as the climate changes and as people want more connections and more gathering spaces, having some more covered spaces. I mean, at Foothills now, there's that one great, building, but when you think of people coming over from St. Mary's Woods, it's or parents with their little tiny kids. And so, whether it's the rain or the strong sunshine, but just being able to have some, adaptive, whether it's from the trees or just covered open areas for people to sit and with paint or whatever, so you're analog, so read or.
If I may add one last thing on the food carts. I live down at the condos and folks are talking about the development. I know there's a connection with the board and Eric, and hopefully that connection will continue.
Yep.
And conversations will be had. There's some nervousness about the development, which we had a meeting last week, and I spoke and hopefully calmed people's nervousness about it. They don't feel like it's an invasion, but I think because there's not, there haven't been communications yet. There's a lot of things happening and they're kind of left in the dark a little bit. But I think that has improved. When I talk to people just in passing and they ask about it, food carts come up a lot.
Okay.
And I think there's an opportunity with the food carts to tie into that the idea of diversity and bringing in that cultural, aspect, which is really good.
Yeah, thank you for talking, communicating to your neighbors.
Yeah, and I think
definitely
one last thing since I mentioned it, I know when you get into wordsmithing, you can go down a long, tough road. But I think one thing that there's that fine line between perception and intention, right? And I think we've all been in this process since the beginning. We know the intention of everybody. And it's hard to counter perception without knowledge and stuff. And I think I've been through this enough with you all to know that when we talk about Foothills, we're talking about that industrial side, that north side of the area. And we're not talking about the condos or the apartments and whatnot. Just making sure that we, in language or just in talking with them, acknowledge that they're there. They've been longtime stewards of that neighborhood. The park especially is very, very important and rooted into that community. People at the apartments too, even though they're renters, some are long-term, lifelong renters down there. And so just keeping that in mind. Sometimes I think we say we're creating a new neighborhood. Well, a neighborhood exists
Right.
already, and the people that are there care an awful lot about it and have for a very long time. When I ended, I didn't end the meeting, but when the meeting ended with the HOA, there was a lot of excitement for everything. Where at the beginning they were nervous about it, and I hope I represented you all well in that meeting. Yeah, there's excitement down there.
Yeah, it's important because the vision statement, some of those do say new or extension of. I think strengthening existing would be probably a better way of framing it. So yeah, thank you for that. This is why we do this to get better. Great.
And one last little thing, since we're throwing out ideas and stuff. I know Councilwoman Verdick, I don't know if she currently does, but has sat on a board that includes Westland, or the city, and Lake Oswego, the Willamette Heritage group, which they're in process. I think with the current administration, it's on pause, but developing a national heritage site, which is not a full-fledged member of the national park system, but is part of it. They don't get the same funding that the other parks do. They were in, I think everything's like close. They just have to get the legislative approval of things, and that doesn't seem to be happening or will happen soon. But I am a big fan of national parks, and my family's got on a quest to see them all. And there's big tourism. There are a lot of completions out there who want to see everything. And I think there's a really cool opportunity. I know we talked about Tron Creek having a little space in the Foothills area, but the sites that have been mentioned for Lake Oswego in terms of the National Heritage Site would be the Foundry, the Pioneer Cemetery. I felt like there was one other that I'm missing, but I know those two for sure. But having even if it's just like a little, part of this state park, or if a library was down there, just having a place where they can, they can go and get their book stamped and have information about. It's all tied into the Pioneer Oregon Trail.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, thank you for that.
Joe, didn't they come make a presentation to, I feel like I was at a council meeting and this very conversation.
Maybe one.
Yeah, that's where I learned about it.
Okay.
I know it's related to the locks project.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Okay.
I want to do just a time check here because we are close to being done. We're on the pending principle 4. We want to keep running through this, or
Yeah, let's just quickly go through 4, 5, and 6. I mean, how much time do we have? Are we done in 5 minutes?
yeah, right? Is that our time?
Is it our time?
Yeah. And I'm gonna have to leave. My son has a basketball game that I have.
That's important.
By all means.
That makes me help.
We can go through these pretty quickly. Just number 4, speaks to housing types, tenures, and just affordability. Some design considerations that we've talked about. We talked about a little bit of that already. Just ensuring affordability. different types of housing, rental ownership, affordable workforce, and just being flexible and adaptable. This is a future, hopefully a future-proof plan. Thinking about geometry of blocks, different types of missing middle, mid-rise. We haven't really got into like designing those, but the blocks do matter and access does matter, parking matters, things like that. So we will definitely be seeing those types in the plan and testing the types, just test fitting things and just trying to be very flexible in the plan itself. Maybe even having an anti-displacement plan, like if we have future residents moving here, maybe things grow, change. Like let's keep residents here, and these are just ideas. Just any other ideas would be great. Definitely, this is not your last opportunity. We're going to see other ways to integrate design considerations in the plan as well. But anything?
Yeah, any comments on this one?
Yeah.
We'll keep going.
Okay. This is about scale, just understanding the land and topography and how we create connections, how we think about the foothills itself, and just stepping down to building heights, or we fill a huge hole with a parking garage, or just ways of thinking about scale and edges and just comfort. View corridors, you mentioned those. So just the grid, how the grid adapts, how do you extend downtown in a really great way, a comfortable way, future-proofing infrastructure as well. So any comments here? We've talked about this a little bit already, so.
Do you have a comment in chat?
Oh, yes, please.
Dale, says that there were events that people could sign up for, like games and activities such as roller skating or biking around the area, or water activities, like having an open swim times from the docks with food carts, maybe if there were featured in an article or something.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and someone else said painting classes, maybe cooking classes.
Yeah.
Exercise classes.
Great. Perfect. Oh, here we go. Last one. Yeah. We mentioned this. This is really about the idea of just creating a welcoming, safe, inclusive neighborhood. And just having a storyline, just trying to communicate and educate even national parks, right? Like educating our what's happening around us ecologically, just the stories that exist already, and maybe even future stories that could happen here. I feel like this is one that we could start to get really creative here about this.
On this, I would specifically say consult the communities that have been marginalized.
Yeah.
Because we can't come in with our own ideas of this is how we make this a welcoming place.
Right.
Maybe people need more economic opportunity.
Yeah.
Maybe people need more recognition of the harm that was done.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something else that we haven't thought of, but it needs to be there's a lot of people who have very interesting experiences in Lake Oswego. So definitely they need to be fully consulted on how to make this, how to actually take this vision and enact it in not in a way that's top down, us saying we made this for you. Actually consulting the community and saying
What's that idea?
we did wrong before. What do you need to now feel welcome?
Agreed. I love that. And it could evolve over time too, just like just here. It's part of that process of healing, or just like retail, like where we start, let's test it, let's like grow it together over time.
That idea of being welcome versus being included.
Right, yeah, it's good.
And that was a thought I had too about, naming the streets down there. Maybe we could name them,
What about that too?
name them after community leaders that represent those marginalized groups. Is that what you're thinking?
Or with some connection to LO, whether it's the workers that were, I don't know, community leaders and activists that were here in the 60s, or the workers that first moved in the 1940s, or obviously, indigenous cultures that were here. Just, something with the name.
Something meaningful.
Yeah, meaningful.
It doesn't have to be AB 1, 2.
Yeah.
Jeff, what are your?
The Oswego Preservation Society and the Oswego Heritage Council have a lot of material that these are small things, like if you have a rock placed with a picture of what that area was like 120 years ago. Both those organizations have those resources that will add, I'll call it the small little things that make a difference in the area.
Yeah.
And Rachel Verdick is a member of the Oswego Preservation Society, and I'm a member of the Oswego Heritage Council.
Okay.
So both available to help.
Keep that.
One more comment on this. Can we specifically say on number 6, like in accordance with the city's DEIA policy? Let's really make that a clear statement.
What's the A?
Accessibility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotta keep up.
I actually don't know if ours is DEI or DEIA, but
Thank you.
yeah, it's part of it.
The acronyms keep changing too much.
Well, then maybe we should say
Yeah.
what the words are rather than just an acronym. So
Sure.
people know what
Yeah.
we're saying.
Yeah, make sure that no acronyms in any of this, for sure.
Great. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
for that. Very helpful.
So I think we'll do another round and iteration. Owning the vision, incorporating some additional terminology that we've all talked about, and try to round this out. Then we'll send that back out to you all, share with you, and we'll, clearly we can roll that in the next meeting, or if we.
Yeah, especially the vision, like sending that to you and let you look at that mission statement, the ones that we have, how it's evolving, the simplified version too. Just take it in, notes, give feedback. I think that would be helpful. Takes time to draft up a vision statement, so we'll get there.
This is the larger project schedule, so this is up here just to kind of reorient us all. And it looks like you'll see a number of things all coming together for sort of the beginning of June. Expect to have the vision statement, goals, and objectives all aligned. That is informing the concept plan alternatives and moving into schematics, I think, by June. Schematic meaning concepts are looking at a variety of different scenarios. And as we land on kind of preferences or hybrids or elements that are important, we then refine that into what becomes kind of the draft preferred plan. We sort of agreed on the network and the types of development. We hone that into ultimately a master plan, which gives a little more meat to all of that. That then happening in August, refinement, and then moving between refinement and plan into October. Then there's an adoption process, and all that does, that really creates the plan somewhere around, June or July. You see in 2027. To make that into policy, that will inform some policy in terms of new zoning and comprehensive plan amendments, potentially. I think the urban renewal area and where its boundaries are and what it's going to encompass in terms of projects, because the master plan is going to define sort of development opportunities, maybe some initial phasing, so that'll allow that district to actually hone in on some projects that maybe early money could get appropriated to. So this is kind of the big schedule, just as a reminder to all of us that next steps. Go ahead.
So this takes into account our work as a committee, plus planning commission work and city council work to get to the December date? Or is this just our?
Our work gets us through, let's say, the final framework plan, this group, final framework plan, and then those post-plan amendments, that sort of policy that
Planning.
takes the plan and implements it through zoning updates and comprehensive plan modifications. But the master plan will be whole in itself, and it's typically adopted, or at least it's either
Given
adopted as a
weight.
policy document, or it's like it's recognized as this will initiate zoning and comprehensive plan potentially amendments. So it'll have teeth.
And that's when we have the party.
That's the other part. Well, hopefully we'll have a few parties before that. But yeah, it's like way down the road. But yeah, it's kind of a big deal
Put it
when
in
you
the
finally get
plan.
to that.
Party.
Yeah, it's party. All right, we got some craziness here. Next steps, I think Randy mentioned that there is a open house, and that's really to kind of learn from a community perspective. We've worked with this group and we've kind of understood the opportunities and challenges, and you guys have advanced a vision and guiding principles. The community needs an opportunity, so the open house is really an opportunity for the community to get exposed to the project. Foothills, where the heck is it? What are you talking about? What are the objectives? What have you been doing? What have we learned? And asking similar things like, what do you value in Foothills today? You know, what do you aspire Foothills to be in the future? Those are questions we would ask the communities with. And share the information that we've learned about the district in terms of opportunities and challenges, and the vision and guiding principles that we're evolving with the CAC. So they're going to kind of get like the fire hose dump of information and have to process that in a limited amount of time. But we're trying to make it as accessible and easy to understand as possible. But that's going to happen here at the Adult Community Center. So it's upstairs. The room where people were doing yoga, or they were doing some exercise class today.
Yeah.
So that'll happen on the 26th. Then there's a council study session on the goals and visioning. So what we refine here, we'll present specifically to city council. So they have that vision and guiding principles informed by the CAC, and we'll share with them how we're going to use that information. You know, these slides about here's a principle and here's the design consideration, so they get a sense of what direction the design team is going with any given principle. So that'll be an opportunity for council to get caught up and how they're aligned with your efforts. And then that'll advance to the planning commission. So you'll see that about 20 days later, the planning commission will then weigh in and give a summary of what council has talked about. And then we're back together April 14th. And April 14th is where we come back with scenarios for this group to dial into. We'll confirm the guiding principles and the vision, but we'll share that in advance. So it's more just checking in, confirmation. But so that's going to be just a ton of fun for us to look at. How do we get into the district?
We're going to push these tables together.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll just make a large table here in the middle, and we have plans and maps and scenarios, or we certainly can put them on
The wall.
posters and bring them around. So get our markers out, and
Get the VR headset.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
we do have that.
Probably do that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be ready on that 3D model yet. Lisa's not here. She'll get her own private screening.
So we're not going to meet in March, just to confirm. The CAC is not meeting in March.
That is true.
I think that's true.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of spring break and other things.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's why we bumped it out that second week in April.
When is your next TAC?
Our TAC, we're planning for the second week of March. And we'll bring the whole group there. The conversation is going to be centered on the Terwilliger intersection, talking about Highway 43 culvert, talking about the potential of that being a connection into the district, and having Oregon Department of Transportation there, and having Bureau of Environmental Services, who's agreed to continue to be part of the conversation, and the Tryon Creek Watershed Council. Those are kind of the big players that I've been sort of bringing up. How do we get all those folks in the room and start talking about the intersections?
For your TAC meeting, if it's possible, Who's our congressperson? Is it, no, not state, federal. Is that, Janelle Lynam? Okay, because if you want to do something on the, Tryon Creek, channel,
Sure.
it's gonna, it would end up being a partnership between, including the federal government. And if you have somebody from her office present at that meeting, so they don't get surprised going forward.
Yeah, that is a great suggestion.
Okay, thanks, Jen.
When is that meeting again?
I think the second week of March, we're scheduling it. We typically meet on Wednesdays, so it'd be.
Well, that's the TAC.
I think you asked, right? The TAC and what?
Investmental.
Yeah, the TAC, and what's that stand for?
Technical Advisory Committee.
So the channel.
That might be March 11th. If we do the second week of March. And Wednesday is the day the technical advisory committee meets. We have some more dates here, though. I can't see that. Closing comments? Do you want to guide us through that, Randy? Do you have any closing comments?
I just wanted to ask you about the draft guiding principles. Is this our last time discussing that, or are you now putting it in somewhat final form, or?
Yeah, I think we want to revise based on what we heard, and I think in our next meeting,
we'll have a chance to
carve out
do it
time
again.
exactly to just do a final kind of confirmation on that, or at least discussion.
But you'll send it out ahead of time for everybody to look at,
Yeah, we'll send it in several weeks before that.
Well, I do appreciate how we're all, I think, working together and comfortable exchanging ideas. And I think the dynamic of our group is functioning well from what I can see. So I hope we can continue that. And I would remind you, please tell your networks and contacts about this February 26th meeting. If people are unsure about what we're doing, this will be a good chance for them to come in and get an overview and have some direct input.
Yeah.
So I hope we can do that. And having said that, is there any other business we need to transact? Mr. Goodman.
Mr. Goodman is buried next to my mother. I'm Jeff. But this is a shameless, thank you. This is a shameless plug for the Oswego Heritage Council, but also the timeline. We just had a brand new exhibit that opened up within the last month. It is a really good exhibit showing timelines going back a couple hundred years. And check the website, it'll give you the hours open. You can stop by there and just wander through and take a look. It may give you some additional ideas for what I'll call some of the small touches which help make a project successful in terms of infrastructure.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And you're more than welcome also to become members.
Okay. Okay, no shameless plug.
Absolutely shameless.
You did have a good article in the Yellow Review about that display, and I was looking in that article for when it was open for viewing.
It's open.
I didn't see anything saying, oh, you can see this, come see the display on these days, or
Please come.
so we'll look at your website.
Look at the website. Please come, become a member.
Okay. Anything else?
That's shameless enough.
If not, we will adjourn the meeting and we'll, I guess, see you in April.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for staying a little late. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Good conversation.
I heard.
That is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's fun when you get to see that.
How's it?